I work at a coffee shop. My boss offered me a strange position. I work at the Drowsy Spectre, a cafe positioned in a place sure to never get any business. No human business, that is. This is the beginning of my experience with the supernatural, and my first shift at the Drowsy Spectre. Assuming I don't get killed for not seeing that a latte was supposed to be made with almond milk, that is a hazard that regular baristas face, nothing to do with the hauntings that plague the Drowsy Spectre. Then I'll update things here. I've been given Tuesdays and Wednesdays off, giving me plenty of time to write down whatever weird stuff happens. So far, I've only worked one shift at the new location. I have a long history with one of Richard's other chains, the Drowsy Student. I'll start there, where my boss, who is the owner of the chain, came to offer me a strange position. There I was, working my 5-hour shift. Short, I know. Most of the shifts at my old job were. Lots of young people that work here have to dance around their college schedules. Drowsy Student, where I worked under the same owner, was placed strategically between 3 different college campuses. If it were me, I'd pick one campus and drop the store right next to it. Richard, the owner, thought it would be best to place it in a position that would see more morning traffic, students going to their first class, which made a lot of sense, I guess. I don't have a business degree, so I don't know. Never felt the pull to get a higher education, though that's not to shame anyone who does. I've never had the money nor the inspiration. That's probably why I was stuck there, making a passable wage with part-time hours. Most everyone there had classes and went to college, so I felt a bit out of place at times. I made a few friends, though. The closing shift is like that. Even if you're working with people you'd never consider hanging out with, something about late hours and slow business brings people together. Mostly complaining, the greatest common ground any person could find. Richard was a good boss by comparison, but every job had things to whine about. Anyways, this was one of the few nights that I didn't stay to fully close. We locked the doors at 9 p.m., clocked out, and went home around 45 minutes later. Since it was so slow during the late hours, oftentimes one person would be sent out at 8:30. That Friday it was me. I didn't have any other friends outside the Drowsy Student, nor anyone at my apartment waiting on me. Most got a dog, or maybe a cat. I didn't hate animals, I just didn't have one. That's why I decided to stay. There was no reason for me to go home. Everyone I had was there, closing down the store. I had my phone, scrolling through Reddit and waiting for everyone else to finish their shift, so we could complain about our lives outside the store. Besides me, there was one other person in the lobby. They had a laptop open, a large book beside them, and a large cup of fuel sitting far too close to their studying tools. Sometimes Richard parked out back to make a stealth approach through the back door. I wasn't certain if he did that to check on his employee base, maybe to see if there was more talking than working when he wasn't around on the slow closing shift. He'd have us pull out the fridges, scrub the booths. Yeah, those were all smart and reasonable things for the person paying you to request, but that didn't mean any of us liked it. I could see the office from my comfortable spot at the front of the store, in a corner that guaranteed another customer wouldn't sit near me. That was unlikely anyway, considering the hour, but it was instinct. The back door of the office opened to introduce Richard, who noticed me instantly. Whenever Richard saw someone he knew, he smiled big and waved. This time it was no different. Much to my dismay, he approached. "Want me to get you a sleeping bag?" A joke, but I would have accepted. "I think we're all going to the Waffle House after they close up." "The Waffle House, huh? I bet they get plenty of business this late. It's all breakfast food, though. I tried that, but there isn't enough room in the kitchen. The truth of the matter is that we do plenty of business in the morning. It balances out how slow it is at night. Maybe that is it. Maybe we need to do more breakfast in the evening." I hadn't asked about any of that, but that's just how Richard was. "You mind if I borrow you for a sec?" I wasn't clocked in, and it wasn't worth it to bother him about getting paid for sitting down. If he wanted to talk, I was probably in trouble for something. Wasn't wise to make it worse. "Yeah. Come on, we'll talk in my office." The red chair in his office was cushioned, but that didn't make it comfortable. I was constantly adjusting, which I hoped didn't give him the idea that I was simply uncomfortable in his presence. He always joked that he felt like an intimidating boss, that everyone just needed to relax around him. I was trying to, but the damn chair was set on hurting me. Whenever I adjusted my legs, I had to be careful not to knock over a pile of papers, or kick some cringy trinket referencing how good caffeine was. I don't really rise and shine. I just caffeinate and hope for the best. Ugh, kill me. He had talked about putting that on the back of our uniforms, too. I'd hang myself. So how are you? Richard always started off like that. Making money. That was a stupid reply. Why did I say that? He laughed, and was polite. A pity laugh. Look, I wanted to offer you a position. That was far better news than I'd hoped for. What sort of position? You work nights mostly. You aren't taking classes unless that has changed, but you aren't available to come in until around 1 p.m. Personal preference, but I wasn't going to tell him that. If you were available to come in even later, stay into the night, would you? I get the feeling that you're a night owl. Richard had a few locations, but none of them were open overnight. Doing what? Cleaning or something? No, nothing like that. Why was he so hesitant? Look, there's another chain I own. Not really a chain, I guess, since there is only one of them. Would a drive up by Rose Hill be too far for you? If it meant an overnight shift and more hours, it didn't matter. Not at all. I didn't know we had anything up there. He sighed and went serious. We don't. Be quiet. The message was clear. Some around here know about it, but only those I trust. Naturally, that means if you refuse. So it wasn't an offer. It was an ultimatum. Did someone complain? People are always complaining. That's half the business. No, Axel. I have vacancies that need to be filled. Turnover is pretty intense on the overnights. I think you will like it, though. It isn't even open during the day, save for a few hours just before sunset. But why the secrecy? It was my first shop, he confessed. Didn't take off like I wanted it to. This is my success. The drowsy student. I want to be known for that, not my first failure. That seemed a bit extreme, but I wasn't going to bother pushing it. And I'd be paid the same? More, actually. There are certain hazards working in such a remote place. Remote? You said it was Rose Hill. By Rose Hill. Not in. It is near the highway off to the side. There isn't a college up there. It was making sense. Richard shook his head. No. No wonder it was a failure. From what I knew then, Richard would have no income there. So why put a coffee shop up there? What business do you expect? Oh, plenty come through. I had to take his word on that. And if the place closes down? Richard laughed at that, a real laugh. Then I'd be in big trouble. It won't, though. But if it eases your mind, you will have a place here. What do you say? It really didn't take that long for me to come to a decision. If what Richard was offering was real, then it was truly the greatest offer I could have hoped for. I shrugged and told him that I accepted, then asked when I would be able to start this new dream position. Monday, please. That is perfect, then. Let me get you a packet, then. He spun in his chair to tear at the disorganized mess that was his desk. Finally, he found some manila folder. Here we are. There are some different products over there, as well as different policies. There is one thing you need to know, Axel. It is much more strict over there. I expect the finest adherence to these policies. If I have to let you go, I won't be putting you back here. That was fair. You can trust me. Considering it would be completely dead at this other shop, I wasn't really concerned about policies or procedures. I planned to give it a read regardless. What is it called? The store? Richard stood and straightened his polo. The Drowsy Spectre. You can see where the store's title was inspired. I won't be there Monday, but Celine will. She's the manager and is there nearly every night. She'll show you the ropes. He went back for the door. I expect a survivor, Axel. That was a weird thing to say. Coffee shops weren't known for killing people. I learned, however. That next morning was a Saturday, and I happened to be off. That gave me 2 days to prepare, to read up on the papers that Richard had provided. It was a joke, or at least I had thought so at the time. Things like, do not, under any circumstances, buy candles from the lady by the lake. When running trash, answer any questions she asks honestly. Or, when the Hartman comes in, her order must be completed in 2 minutes, otherwise, hide in the freezer. Richard had some odd sense of humor, so I didn't think much of it. Important things like arrive 30 minutes before opening and do not unlock the door until opening at 7 p.m. And if you heard knocking at the back door, don't answer unless it's only 5 wraps. Made sense considering the obscure location. Monday came. The shop was just outside of Rose Hill, which was already a country sort of town. Again, I was shocked at the placement of the business. It was 20 minutes out of Rose Hill, which meant the likelihood of anyone making the journey to the Drowsy Spectre was very small. When I arrived, I found that the store was in surprisingly good condition, considering how long it must have been open for it to be Richard's first business. And the lack of revenue it must produce, it should have been in pieces. It was rustic from the outside, made of logs or at least meant to look so, with soft lighting at the entrance. It was 6:15 p.m. There was nearly no traffic, but I left early just in case. The door would be unlocked at 6:30 to let me in. I thought it was wise to show that I arrived early, displaying my work ethic. Stupid, I know, but that was me. It was locked as expected, but I could not see anyone inside. I would have expected the manager to arrive early, get things started before the rest of the employees arrived. My car was the only one in the parking lot when I arrived, but when I turned around, there was another. I assumed they were the manager. A woman stepped out of a Ford Fiesta. It was an old car, probably from the 80s. I'm not proficient in cars, however, so I'm not sure. Anyway, she waved at me. She was my age, maybe a little bit older. Just under her 30s, I guessed. A flower dress was out of place in the cold fall weather, as were her sandals. She opened the back of her car and pulled out a box. I could see, even from my place on the porch, that they were full of candles. She left the trunk open and went towards the drive-thru. She paused. I haven't seen your face around here. What's your name? The candle lady. The folder said to answer her. I felt inspired to do so. Axel, just started. This is actually my first day. Axel, I like that name. I'm Amber Bucker. I sell candles over by the lake, just by the drive-thru. Lots of people here buy them, even Celine. You want to come back and have a look? She seemed sweet, but I refused. It wasn't because of the rules. It was just I wasn't a huge fan of candles. That and I was waiting on Celine. Maybe another time. I'll hold you to that, Axel White. I hadn't told her my last name, but I didn't put much thought to it. She came back for a table and another box, then closed her trunk without a word. She glanced at me a few times, pushed her hair behind her ear and looked away whenever I noticed. Eventually, someone else arrived, just 1 minute before the doors were to be unlocked. A Crown Vic, old too. Looked like everyone here drove something older than I was. A redhead climbed out dressed in enough black to scream edgy. Black eyeliner contrasted green eyes, ones that were locked on Amber's car. They fell on me. You didn't buy anything, did you? I read the policy on that. We aren't supposed to. That's good. She put her hands on her hips. She seemed nice. Amber, I mean. She said you liked her candles, though. Celine scrunched her nose. She tells people that. I never bought one, though. I don't have a death wish. Death wish? That was a bit extreme. She looked me up and down. Look, you've just started. I get it. Everything seems super weird. It doesn't get better, but you'll get used to it. A loud beeping caused Celine to pull out her phone. She had a pop socket with a llama that had a horn? A llama corn? That didn't really match with her emo appearance. Scoot, I gotta unlock the door. More cars pulled in, just on time. They weren't as ancient as the other vehicles. A white truck, a gray sedan. I think the white sedan was a Honda. I am a bit weird, perhaps, making first impressions without even meeting someone. Cars didn't really say much about a person, but I still do it. Can't stop. I met Barrow, Em, and John as they came through the door. Everyone pooled in the lobby just inside, then I realized that we were waiting on Celine to lock the door. She did, just a minute after opening it. Then she turned around and got all serious. I don't care who you see outside, even if they beg you. Don't let anyone in. I nodded. Y'all keep an eye on him. This guy here is Hook. He'll show you around. The rest of you, introduce yourselves. This part is getting boring." She went on her way, presumably to her office. Hook sighed and rolled his eyes before taking the lead. "Barrow, nice to meet you." He had a well-kept goatee, and when he shook my hand, a firm grip. I was certain I'd get along with him. "Why'd she call you Hook?" Glaring in the direction of the office, Barrow answered, "She's got nicknames for everyone. Lots of turnover here. Makes it easier for her to remember everyone. When we first met, she thought my beard looked a bit like—" He trailed off, but I got it. "A pirate." Yeah. Barrow was quick to change the subject. He introduced a blonde girl, who awkwardly stuck out a small arm as he spoke. "This is Em." "Hi, hope you don't—" "Not yet." Barrow cut her off. "This is John." "Hey, man." My father always told me that you could measure a man by a handshake. I don't know if I believe that, but John wiggled more than shook. He seemed the youngest, but he had an energy I liked. Shouldn't have said yes to Richard, just saying. "Did you all come from the other locations?" "Pretty much," Em nodded. "Barrow and I have been here the longest. John here started with his brother, who you are replacing." "He quit?" They glanced at Barrow, who seemed to be the leader in the group. "You could say that." It was an odd response, but it was clear that that was all I was going to get. "Overnights aren't for everyone, I guess." "Oh, he liked overnights. That wasn't it." Barrow waved an arm. "Let me show you around. I assume Richard gave you the folder with our policies?" I nodded. Policy is a fancy word. It doesn't really have the weight that it should. Rules are a better one. They are rules, and breaking them could get you fired. Or worse. Or worse? Yeah, don't worry about it just yet. What do you remember? Before I could answer, he waved an arm. "Actually, I'll just tell you. Easier to learn visually, right?" I learned by experience, so he was right. "Sure." He brought me behind the counter. The others followed. "This is the drive-thru. The rules aren't really numbered, but we will call this number 1, because it really is the least of them. Don't open the window, unless there is a customer in a car. One fellow comes around sometimes, and he is mostly harmless, unless you go outside with him. We call him Tall Ben. He'll try to talk you into climbing out of the window, and honestly, it isn't worth the trouble of getting rid of him. Just don't open the window unless someone is in a car." That was a bit odd, but we were in a secluded spot. Who knows how many weirdos came around. Rule 2, we'll call it. There is a blonde lady that comes in. We call her Hartman. She has a stupid drink she orders every time. It's gotta be done in 2 minutes. The list says to hide in the freezer if you don't, but most times you can just cover your ears. She screams. Very loudly. Next is the back door. Tall Ben, sometimes someone else, will knock and get you to open it. Don't. If it is someone important, it'll be 5 knocks. Good, you did read them. Next is Tom. He'll come in and bother any female employee. If none are working, he will leave. It is on us to make sure we warn them if he shows up. He'll try to get pictures, and if he does, that is very bad for them. He is a creep, Em added. But yeah, we go to the bathroom or something. He leaves eventually. There are some other situational ones that we can go over once they come up. Last 2, though, are the most important. Don't unlock the door before 7 p.m., and do not buy candles from Amber. That one is super important. Why not? Don't worry about that. You'll be fired on the spot. No questions asked. Do not buy anything from her, but make sure to answer her questions. If you don't, she will tell us. You'll be fired. What? That was entirely ridiculous. Is she Richard's daughter or something? Sure. Barrow shrugged. Hook! Celine shouted from her office. Lights are out. They weren't. I could see just fine. I could see the light coming from the edge of the office door, too. There was a light switch outside the door, and Barrow flipped it. Nothing happened, but Celine did step out afterwards. Thanks, she offered, then went back inside. Barrow turned to me. Situational. Just flip the switch if she says that. The light was on, though. Don't worry about that. 7 p.m. came around. Celine checked up with me, made sure I was prepared for the shift. Someone was waiting outside the door. They had a hoodie on, and I couldn't see their face as the setting sun offered little light. They left just before 7 o'clock, being just out of sight when Celine unlocked the doors. "We're open." She stared out into the parking lot. "And she's here already. That was fast." A massive van pulled in, black, fit for maybe 18 people. It took up nearly 4 parking spaces, mostly because the one driving it didn't know how to park the beast. Out came a blonde woman, eyes fiercely locked on the front door. "Let us handle Hartman. Just watch and you'll pick it up." Beryl waved him over. "Come by the register. I know you worked at Drowsy Student, but it is a bit different here." I obliged, just as Hartman pushed open the door. She sighed long when she entered, but she seemed like a normal woman. Hartman approached the counter and gave Em a fake smile. She made an act of looking at the menu on the wall behind Em, but Beryl made clear that she was a long-time regular. Wouldn't she already know what was on it? "Do you have heavy cream?" Hartman asked. "Still don't. I don't think Richard is able to sell it before it spoils." She scoffed. "Well, I'll take a large hot latte. Breve. Do you have honey?" Em nodded. "I can put honey in it." "Yeah, that'll be it." As soon as she said this, Beryl hit a button. I leaned over and realized it was a timer. Em quickly wrote down the order on a cup and let Beryl get to work. Beryl had already steamed the milk and had 2 shots of espresso ready, so the drink was done in seconds. There was no need for the timer. Beryl put the drink on the counter to his left and called for Hartman. "Thank you." She took it, sipped, and found it acceptable. "Thanks." Then she left. Well, that was lucky. You never know when Hartman will come in. She's entirely random. Good first time for you, though. Sometimes it is during a rush. One time, DeGuire... Beryl hesitated. Well, he had it hard the first time. Someone else came in. Then another. Lots of strange people, but more than I had expected. Odd accents, weird clothes, and even stranger orders. John was back in the kitchen. Beryl told me that was his usual station. He came up front when we had no orders, which was often. A sandwich that was just meat. Meat for bread, meat for, well, meat. Meat instead of lettuce and tomato. John brought out a moldy piece of bread and I was going to stop him, but the customer saw the mold and grinned before offering an oddly sexual thanks. I met Tall Ben too. He isn't... right. Meeting him made me realize that there was something unnatural about the drowsy specter. Ben was a lanky giant, there was no other way to put it. He was 3 or 4 times my height for sure. I'm not that tall, but no one is that tall. I say I met him, but I really only saw him outside the window. He waved, but I didn't open the window. I would have assumed that he was on stilts or something, but his head was too big. His whole body was stretched, hands big enough to pick me up if he wanted to eat me. "What does he want?" I asked. Beryl hadn't noticed him, probably to eat you, just like I guessed. Nice not opening the window. Is that mistake made often? Like I said, lots of turnover. I was certain there had to be an explanation for Ben's stature. We were in redneck country. Who knows what sort of defects happened where society couldn't reach. The doubts of the drowsy specter's supernatural nature, however, were shattered when Em came running from near the front door. "DeGuire is here." Damn him. Beryl dropped everything. "Are we empty?" "Yeah, no one is in." "Lock the door." "But..." "Lock it." The door creaked and welcomed a man in a long coat. I had never, until that day, seen yellow eyes. He was pale, like he had not seen the sun in a long time. He looked around, then noticed Em near the front counter. He slowly approached, and Em was quick to hurry behind the register. I assumed this was DeGuire, the fired brother of John. DeGuire was a last name, though. I did not have the privilege of knowing his first. There was tension in the air. It didn't seem like my right to break it, so I remained silent. Did the lights dim? I think they did. "Changed your mind?" he asked. "You know, it's the right thing to do." "Get out, DeGuire." Beryl held a shot glass in his hand, prepared to turn it into a dangerous projectile. DeGuire stared for a moment. "You don't have anyone." Finally he noticed me. You are here to replace me, right?" "Don't answer him, Axel." "You'll take my place?" I didn't speak, but Beryl reinforced his command. "Don't speak to him. One of you." DeGuire raised his voice. Take my place. The lights shattered, raining sparks and glass. I protected my eyes and face, as did the others. Celine had exited her office, a crucifix in hand. Get out, DeGuire! She held it out to him. Get out! He averted his gaze. Celine, please, you know me. We all did, DeGuire. John stood by the kitchen. You're gone. It isn't fair, he begged. It isn't. I could see tall Ben outside the glass windows that made up the front of the store. He seemed genuinely interested in the drama. Get out, Celine demanded. DeGuire hesitated, then backed towards the door. He looked up at me one last time. If you want to take my place, if you want to do the right thing, then put this on. A ring fell from his hand, landing on the mat by the front door. It was a gold ring, maybe a wedding band. When he left, tall Ben tracked him. He eventually waved at us before tailing DeGuire into the woods. Everyone let out a collective sigh. Well done, new guy, Celine offered. You didn't speak. That is for the best. She pointed at the ring. Just don't touch that, and we will all be fine. You don't want me to move it? No, it'll be gone when we come in tomorrow. DeGuire stops in sometimes. Just let us handle him. With that, she went back to her office. I was still trying to process DeGuire's haunting visit. None of it was normal. Not the yellow eyes, nor the shattering of the lights. Between him and tall Ben, I was beginning to understand that some things could not be explained. Sometimes weird stuff happened when you got away from the city, and it seemed that the store served those weird things. It was much darker since the lights shattered, so Em offered to fix it. I'll get the ladder. I had questions, however. Barrow, what happened to DeGuire? He was hesitant, but I didn't have to pester to break him. Barrow let out a long sigh, then stared with regret at the woods. He bought a candle. Nothing more notable happened that night. Other than the occasional strange order or customer, I went home, closed my blackout curtains, and took some melatonin. Like I said, I have Tuesdays and Wednesdays off. If something else happens during the weekend, I'll write it all down here. It is therapeutic. It gets my mind off why I came here, to Riker Valley, as well as helps me process the strangest night I've ever experienced. Thanks for listening, and I'm sure I'll have plenty more to talk about soon. I had a strange shift at my new job, but now I seem to be missing an entire day. So after the events of my first day at the Drowsy Spectre, I went to sleep. It seemed wise to me to keep my work schedule so that my mind and body would train more quickly to a new daytime sleep pattern. That post was made last Tuesday night, or Wednesday morning if you prefer. When I woke up, though, it was Tuesday afternoon. That didn't make any sense. However, as I had just had an entire day off, all of Tuesday had already happened. Yesterday could not have been Monday. The post was made Monday night, so there was evidence, which was impossible since I was on shift. What on earth? It makes no sense at all. I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. The contents identified the number as Celine's, who must have gotten mine from Richard. It read, "Hey, did anything weird happen to you?" Like what? I didn't want to out myself and rant about an entire day having not existed. A whole day being gone? That saved me the embarrassment. Yeah, sort of. Same for everyone working Monday night. Richard is going to call you. None of her texts had punctuation at the end. I was halfway through a text when the call came in. Celine's texts suggested that Richard may have had some sort of answer, or at least had something to say about the strange experience. Hey Axel, how are you? He did not sound happy. Not very good, but I wasn't going to say that. Good, thanks. You? Good. Hey, so Celine said the first day went well. That is good. There seems to be an issue, however. What day was yesterday? I didn't want to get in trouble, so I answered with what I knew. Tuesday. That's what the rest of last night's shift said. Yesterday was Monday, and it turns out the store didn't open at all on Monday. And I have some angry customers making complaints. But don't worry about that right now. Listen, Axel, I've got a question for you. You saw some stuff last night on your shift. Stuff that shouldn't be real. Are you normal? That was a weird question, but he explained. Like, are you human, I mean? How is someone supposed to answer that? Apparently, my hesitation was answer enough. Yeah, sorry I asked that. You must have caught on by now, I hope, that there are some things that come in that aren't people. Not normal people, at least. I just had to check. Have you hired any non-humans? Listen, I might need you to come in Wednesday night. Question dodged, or better yet, completely ignored. Somebody called in sick and I need a fresh pair of eyes on the Wednesday shift. When people get used to a place, used to people, they stop noticing the flaws. Maybe a dirty corner doesn't catch their attention, because it's been dirty for a while. You get me? I guess. Not really. I'd be happy to take the shift. Well, I need you to take a look at the store with unbiased eyes. Tell me if you see anything strange, something that stands out so badly that anyone with a brain should be able to spot it. Can you do that for me? So use my eyes. Yeah, I can do that for you. Great. Anyways, let me know what you see and give me a call around 9 p.m. I'll handle the rest. Handle? The drowsy specter was weird, but Richard was weirder. Yes, sir. Before he could hang up, I had to ask, Richard, what happened to my Tuesday? Listen, don't worry about that. I'll figure it out. Yes, sir. Thanks. All right, bye. In a way, that was sort of his catchphrase. He always ended calls the same way. Anyway, I'd found this entire situation worth mentioning. I did some research about lost time, and could only find stories of alien abduction. Look, I'm being forced to believe in the supernatural, but that doesn't mean aliens are real too. I wasn't abducted, I'm certain of it. And I'm sure aliens would have been mentioned in the new hire packet if they were hanging around. No, something else happened, and I can't find anything about it. I'll try to make a post this weekend about Wednesday's shift, assuming I don't get killed. Maybe I'm lazy, but I don't feel like writing on Thanksgiving. Do I have plans? No, unless you count Waffle House. Thank God for the skeleton crew. I was about to post this, but wanted to get some water before giving it a once-over. The front door to my apartment has a large window on top. I could have sworn I saw a face looking at me, one that darted away as soon as I saw it. Only, I was on the second floor. The balcony outside looked over the parking lot, and the face was too far away to be on the balcony. Crap, that was Tall Ben, wasn't it? The rules said nothing about him coming to my house. I went to the window next to the door and peeked out. The apartment complex is shaped like a large L, taking a turn to my left and going straight ahead. It was him. I could see his lanky, tall form hiding behind the other end of the complex. There were people down there in the parking lot that paid him no mind at all. He knew I could see him. I was certain of this when he waved at me. He waved at me. Then, as if we were old pals, he pointed a thumb at the park down the street. If it weren't for streetlights, the park would be in total darkness. Even with the lights, it was barely visible. Was he inviting me to a children's park? I shook my head. Honestly, when his shoulders sank, I felt a little bad. This was some sort of demon, some monster. Why did I feel guilty? He just seemed like he wanted someone to hang out with. Maybe, since the rules about Tall Ben only mentioned the coffee shop, it was safe to go outside. I could speak with him, get questions answered that only something of the unnatural world could know. This was an opportunity, a trade. I could give him the socialization he needed, while I'd get the answers to my many questions about anything cryptid. Something wasn't right. I wasn't thinking for myself. I was being pulled. No, inspired. That's a better word. Thinking about it now, I was incredibly foolish to open the door. It would have been even more stupid if I would have stepped out. Thankfully, my mind returned to me the moment I saw Tall Ben right outside my door, leaning against the balcony, ready to do who knows what to me the moment I stepped outside. He looked so eager, so hungry. I couldn't tell. Maybe he wanted to eat me, or maybe he was just really excited to spend time with someone. I lifted a foot. and thankfully his widening eyes forced my foot back down. I am not that stupid, even when someone else is in my head. But it should be safe to talk to him, assuming I don't go outside, right? Who are you? I'm Ben, man. You know me. Want to grab a drink or something? He was acting like one of the guys, as if we went way back. Well, I'll buy. That was an offer that was hard for my poor ass to refuse. Well, if you're buying, then... Wait, no. I've never met you before. What are you exactly? Why did you follow me to my house? They didn't say anything about you stalking any of us. Just wanted to catch up, honestly. Didn't mean to come across that way. Honestly, I'll tell you everything. It is great weather out here, just the right amount of chill to be refreshing. You know I can run a 6-minute mile? I could show you, man. We need to catch up. Hang out. That was pretty fast. Damn him. Of course he could run that fast. He was giant. I don't know you. Celine, tell this guy to get out here. We haven't talked in ages. I wasn't going to peek my head out, but Tall Ben looked to his right, my left, as if there was someone there. I did my best to look down that way without exiting the doorframe. And to my surprise, I did see Celine there. Come on, Axel, we'll make it a date. Ben's a bit of a big third wheel, I know, but it'll be fine. A date? I hadn't been on one of those in... No, the rules were clear. The rules for the shop, you idiot. This is different. Why would Celine come to... Wait a second, how did you find out where I live? I just asked Richard, of course. Richard doesn't know. I didn't put down my real address on my application. That was true. Thankfully, Richard didn't verify it. Why did I do that? A story for another time. Celine relaxed, losing all expression, then slowly deflated. She poured, like putty, underneath the balcony railing and vanished completely. That was very high on my list of the most terrifying and grossest things I have ever seen. Worth a try, Tall Ben sighed. That was disgusting. Just come outside, man. Why would I do that? I don't know. Come on, it could be fun. Yeah, I'm going to go to bed. I began to close the door. I expected some sort of protest, some new scheme to get me to step out, but all he did was wave an arm and say, lame. So yeah, that happened. I wouldn't have taken the job if I knew that some monster was going to harass me at my own apartment. Richard should have told me, warned me, said something about the nature of the drowsy specter. Celine, Barrow, someone could have warned me. I didn't break any rules on my first shift, although it seems as if my first shift never really happened. I don't know how any of this works. What I am certain of, however, is that I will be getting some answers from Barrow or Celine on Wednesday. Whatever answers I get, they'll be written here. Wish me luck, and if some guy is peeking through your window, inviting you to a dark park, don't open your door. God, I'm stupid. Hey everyone, this is a multi-part story from Haunted Barista. I will be making a playlist for this series that you can find on my channel. Also, go ahead and like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this narration. Thank you for listening.